The management of the SABC says it will wait for direction from the board after it halted the retrenchment processes for 7 days at the public broadcaster last week. Now, there has been public outcry from all sectors and employees belonging to workers' union, the CWU. Union members continue to embark on a strike action today outside SABC headquarters. Meanwhile, SABC management this morning met with representatives of the CWU, that's the Communication Workers Union, as well as BIMAO, the Broadcasters Union as well, to discuss the alternatives to retrenchments. The public broadcaster has requested to urgently meet with the union in the hope of avoiding a threatened blackout scheduled for today. Letters were issued to staff informing them that their positions are either redundant or that they are considered surplus to requirement and have to reapply for their jobs. That happened last week. Now, my colleague Nozintombi Miya is, of course, following this story for us. The SABC strikes against retrenchments, of course, continuing to happen. So for more, let's cross then to my colleague Nozintombi Miya, who is indeed at the SABC in Auckland Park. Nozintombi, has the mood been perhaps a little bit strikingly worse than last week? Perhaps is today a little bit more, or perhaps a little bit more people than last week as well attending this, or has it perhaps died down ever so slightly?
You know, Arabile, somebody said to me earlier, it feels almost as if the SABC collectively has gone through some sort of a funeral, because the mood here outside the SABC is somber. People are sad. Some of the people that we have spoken to, those you can see sitting behind me waiting to be addressed by the labor union, some of them spoke to me earlier, and they said, Arabile, that they can't comprehend what exactly is going on because they're in such shock. They feel betrayed by management. They feel that this process of retrenchment has been simply unfair, and it's been a process that management has not taken people into their confidence and spoken to them and tried to find alternatives to the retrenchment. I mean, almost 90, Channel Africa, most of the staff members have received, retrenchment letters. I mean, we're looking at 97% of the workers at Channel Africa. And they're saying that they're not going to take this lying down. And it's quite interesting that you talk about the difference in mood between last week and this week. Last week we saw the outpouring of anger, of disbelief, of shock. And this week, I think it's starting to really penetrate and settle into a lot of staff members' minds and into the collective society's minds that this retrenchment process is going ahead. Management is not backing down. They are saying that they will continue with the retrenchment. And it has just led to a cloud of absolute sadness and, somberness here outside. And everybody is hoping, most of the staff members are hoping for some sort of intervention at the 11th hour, and whether that is something that will be possible, Arabile, it remains to be seen, really.
Yeah, Nozintombi, it certainly is a difficult situation, I suppose, across the board. Then in SABC staff clearly showing that in their disgruntlement last week. Have we perhaps had any word with regards to the earlier meeting that has happened earlier this morning as well between management, some of the unions as well? Have they come out of that meeting? Have we heard any more word with regards to what is the latest and what will be done from here on?
You know, Arabile, earlier this morning, the SABC CEO had a meeting with staff members at what we call a rediffusion. And he said to staff members that those who received retrenchment letters last week, those retrenchment letters still remain. And the retrenchment letters, the number that we still don't know, some of the retrenchment letters still have not been sent out. And we don't know how many retrenchment letters still have not been sent out. And those retrenchment letters are expected to be sent out at a later stage. And you do know that currently management has said last week Friday that they're going to halt the sending out of retrenchment letters for 7 days. So we anticipate from Friday this week that there possibly will be more retrenchment letters that are handed out if a resolution is not found from the board from management or from labor unions. And what was quite interesting as well in the meeting with management, with the CEO, he said that what's going to happen now is that the division heads of the different departments are expected to meet with the group executives of all the different departments that have been affected by the retrenchments to try and come up with resolutions or to try and come up with different ways, alternatives of either mitigating against the numbers that have been retrenched or trying to find solutions. And, it reminds me of the conversation between the President Cyril Ramaphosa, and our colleague, Ms. Sandeka Kubue, last week at the investment conference, where the President said that it's so important for SOEs to try and ensure that retrenchment is the last process. And what they try and do is to ensure that they generate income. And for an entity such as SABC, it really will be critical for them to try and make sure that they generate income in terms of collecting licenses, in terms of diversifying, in terms of trying to ensure that they really capitalize on the 4IR and generating more audiences and more income from that. And to really look at the retrenchment process as a very last measure resort. And also to look at the operational staff. You cannot be retrenching 97% of the operational staff, because in 6 months' time, in a year's time, you're going to have to rehire those numbers again. So it does, it becomes in a vicious cycle between the retrenchments and having to rehire. So it's absolutely important. This week is going to be absolutely critical, Arabile, between management and between labor unions and between the staffers to ensure that an amicable resolution is found. And, like I said earlier to you, that, some of the staff members that are making their way down here to the radio park by gate 2 have said to me that they feel that management has not taken them to their confidence and they feel betrayed. And this is the opportunity for management to take people into their confidence and to say, this is what we're thinking, these are the proposals that are on the table. Collectively, as employees, what are we hoping to get, and what are we hoping the outcome will be that will be equitable for not just staff but also for management to be able to achieve their objectives of making the SABC a financially viable entity. So it'll be quite interesting to hear the feedback from the labor unions who are still currently in talks with management here later during the course of this day. It'll be interesting to hear from labor unions what resolution or what outcomes or what agreements they've managed to come up with between them and management, and what they can offer to the staff members who are affected and have been impacted by the retrenchment letters having been handed out last week, Carolina.
Nozintombi, thank you so much for that. Let's head on over now to Port Elizabeth, where SABC staff are also protesting then, of course, against the retrenchments. My colleague there, Lwando Nomoyi, is also standing by there. It's a good afternoon to you, Lwando. Won't you just set the scene for us? How are things faring on that side of the world? Have the protests indeed gathered in large sums, or how big a protest is it? And has management been able to speak to staff as well?
Thank you very much, Arabile. From the early hours of this morning, at around 9 in the morning, workers from the SABC, gathered outside the offices, protesting, and putting a firm fist on the floor that they are saying no to the job retrenchments. We also understand that today the board of the SABC will be having a meeting to discuss, a way forward with, various, with the unions, in fact, the CWU and BEMAWE as well, to also plot a way forward and avoid, the axing of over 400 staff workers from the SABC. But, here this morning we've also seen political parties coming, in solidarity to what is actually going on in the SABC. But with me, I've got the spokesperson of AZAPO in the region, Paki Moyi. Paki, thank you very very much for your time. We understand what is going on in the believed SABC today. Just tell us your presence here.
We, as the Azanian People's Organization, my name is Pakimwe, and I'm the publicity secretary or spokesperson of AZAPO in the province. We came to pledge solidarity with the workers of SABC after the announcement that SABC was about to retrench 400 workers. We are quite aware that already others had been given letters of proposing that type of retrenchment, and we are saying as an organization there is no way we can fold arms and allow SABC to victimize journalists, black journalists in particular.
We also understand that the board of the SABC has suspended the issuing out of these letters for 7 days. Do you think this is some kind of, is it a publicity stunt, or what are you expecting from the meeting with the unions today?
7 days to do what? That is the question. Because if you have taken a decision, a conscious decision to retrench workers, now you're saying you are suspending that decision for 7 days, it does not make sense. We don't want no suspension of that decision. We want them to rescind that decision. Furthermore, we are proposing to them, in fact, that instead of retrenching workers, ordinary workers, people who are being paid exorbitant funds, it's top management of SABC. Rather downsize your top management at SABC or reduce salaries of the top management, because they are paying them millions, yet these workers that they are retrenching are being paid peanuts. So we're saying there is no way we can allow that to happen. SABC does not belong to the board. SABC does not belong to any organization, but ANC belongs to the public. So as the public and as an organization that have a track record in fighting for the liberation of our people, we're saying no ways we can fold arms and allow SABC to do this nefarious matters.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. That was Pakimwe from the AZAPO, just briefly unpacking to us and telling us that they are indeed in solidarity with this, and this is what they are calling for. That top-level management in the SABC that is being paid exorbitant funds, to actually cut from them instead of retrenching over 400 workers in this organization.
Yep, all right. So it certainly will get a few more protests by the seams of things around the country as well, not just in PE, of course, and we'll hopefully get word then from management. Lwando Nomoyi out in Port Elizabeth then, the SABC strike, of course, continuing, particularly in this lunchtime picket. Thank you so much for your time.